Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Nice. We can wait 2 more minutes for Magic and see if he's
Hmm.
ready then.
Yeah, I mean, if we're doing comms, especially in plans, Magic should be here, listening. I'd say.
Because
Uh,
I know he does do the bulk of your planning.
yeah.
And then also, I think it's good, like, sometimes you do chip in when you've got, like, your own ult. You'll say when you can use it.
Mhm.
Because I think it's, like, a good thing, right? Like, say, for example, you're playing Lucio, right? And you've got beat. You
Yeah.
know probably best how you want to use your beat
Mhm.
and, like, when. So it's one of those things which, like, I think a couple of times you said something like, I'll use beat for this, or
Mhm.
uh, I'll save beat here or whatever, which I think is the right kind of calls.
Mhm.
Um, because your fight planner might not get everything,
Yeah,
so
of course.
incorporating your own stuff into the plan's pretty good. Like on my team before, it was pretty much we assigned someone as our shot caller who'd plan fights for us, but then 90% of the time anyway, we would all fight plan together
Mhm.
in terms of everyone has their own game plan they want to do, and then they can like add that on top.
Yeah.
Which if you've not got the most vocal people, that doesn't always work. You need the right team for that, and then I know like some people are more quiet than others. Like Johnny's pretty quiet.
Mhm.
Scratch isn't. You're not always most vocal. But
Yeah.
then
True.
obviously you've got people who are very vocal, like Magic. Magic's very vocal, like overly so, who can make up for that, right?
Mhm.
And generally, I would say, like, especially as like hit scan players, don't want to put too much emphasis on comm rolls on them because a lot of the time they need to focus more on mechanical pop-offs
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
um, and other things like that. Same. Not as much with flex DPS. May especially sometimes can be quite a shot calling role, especially in terms of how you play with walls. It's quite
Mhm.
important. Um, right. It's 7 now. Magic's still muted. Actually,
I
let me
mean, he
do.
can watch the beginning back. I've started
Yeah.
recording, so
Okay. So recording. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So we can just start then. Actually, let me move this into my screen. So the first fight, I guess we can just go over quickly. Pretty good overall. I think you had two ideas for plans because they took a top rotation here and then eventually come around to the top here. And then you essentially had two plans which you thought one was you walk up to here and then mirror them, or you play back main and create distance.
Mhm.
I'd say both of them are fine. I think you end up just going playing with main, right? We can go speed ahead, and you guys just walk back here and create distance, which I think is fine, right? You can spam, you've got the cover,
Mhm.
and one of the things they do is they drop their rank to point and then just pocket him. You can just mirror and do the same thing, right? The only thing is they've got high ground advantage, so they can choose like when they want to engage. So that's the only thing to be wary of. But what you guys end up doing is you see the rank drops, you look for an engage, they wall, you counter wall, which it was a good counter wall from you, Raptor.
Thank you.
Here you walk around, get the nice counter wall, split them up. You force lamp. Um, use your lamp as well. I'd say one thing here is like once the lamp's out, then you just go really aggressive.
Mhm.
I think your support uses lamp pretty shittily, but he's not on your team.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right, so that was good. Next, um, let's see. 110. Okay, so here, you do correct alt tracking. You call to hold the statue, um, but you don't plan which ults you're going to use. And the issue here is during this fight, you will use 4 ults and they will use 1 ult.
Hmm.
So positioning wise, right, this is good. You call, okay, hold statue here. And then once you see they're rotating, you're like, okay, let's rotate and meet them. Or they just stand there for a bit, right? And then here, coming into this, you don't know which ults you're using. So then you use Window, use Shatter, use Blizzard, use High Noon, right?
Yeah.
And they only use Window. So then basically what you've done is made it so they are going to win next fight. Unless they mess up, they win next fight. So that's the issue here. You won this fight, but you lost. So it's very
Yeah.
important that you're calling which ults you're going to use and how. So what I might say, if I'm your team, you could say, what's my notes on this? If they window, we can speed through with DM, or we can push into them with Blizz, something like that, right? After they've rotated, like calls like that means you know which ults are being used, and it means other people won't try to do their game plan at the same time generally, or if they do, it should be complementing. So this fight, right? Wait, what time stamp was this? Or did I go back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this fight you also had no plan, which I think you didn't track their DPS ults for one. So I think you either didn't ult track or you forgot to, or not forgot to, or you missed out on the DPS ults or something. But here, things you could play for is saving amp and then trying to kite Blizz when they go for that. But then I think you guys take the engagement and then just get frozen. So, but like I said, this is a fight that you're not going to be winning, right? So that was like this comes down to you forgetting to make a fight plan. So, I will say throughout the map, I think you're start to fight plan more often. Or actually, no, wait, that was a lie. Sometimes you do. Okay, let's go to the next bit. I think here you make a good plan, but then the execution was a bit off. So here, when you're coming up to this fight, you all plan, okay, we're going to go aggressive male tier. Which is good. And I was going to say from you, Micah, it was good you're playing on the wall so you didn't get hit by their shatter when it comes in. So that was good play overall. Let me turn that down a bit. I'd say the one thing is Raptor. I think you missed your opportunity to get the Blizz in. I think your opportunity was now. You got the good wall here, right? And that stops D.Va from being able to eat it. If you place a wall in front of D.Va, there is no physical way she can eat the Blizzard. I think the only way she can eat a Blizzard when you place up a wall is if she's on a high ground within your freeze range. So apart from that, like, this is a free Blizzard, but I think you hold on to it, and then they use ults, and then I think Beat comes out a bit late. So here's a case of your plan was good, it was just the execution was a bit off. I guess some individual things I want to see more of is Scratch. Maybe try incorporating more off angles into your play. You don't like, I've seen you sometimes do it, but I think it's something you can do more, especially like on streets phases is pretty hard to do. But there's a lot of situations where if you off angle, you can look for a lot more final blows than you could just shooting at shields. I think a lot of the times in fights where you've gotten a lot of picks is when you've taken an off angle to your team.
Yeah.
So think about incorporating that more. Raptor, I think one thing you can do is talk a bit more about how you're using Maywall. Like, you can like decide the tempo of the fight based on how you've got wall. So like if you're playing on a corner, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna look for an aggressive wall and this WW. Or
Yeah.
other things like that. You can really change the tempo of how the fights are going based off your wall cooldown, right? A lot of your speed engages will be based off of looking for walls in neutral fights. Micah, I was going to say this. It hasn't come up yet, so we'll see it a bit later. But when you're beating, I always want you to call a target.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I've said this
Yeah, you said
before.
this before, yeah.
Because there's actually a really good fight that happens on third point defense, but you beat as like a tempo beat, right? Your team's a bit low and then they're about to push, and then you beat to push back into them.
Yeah.
But the issue was you didn't really have a target at the time, so the first like half of the beat kind of got wasted.
Okay. Yeah.
I think eventually someone else calls a target, but it's something that can be pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say, is Magic back here?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
I'd say the main thing to work on. I'm probably gonna put on your fight planning. Focusing more on how you want to use your ults, because sometimes you've got some good fights where you're calling, I want to use these two ults, which is like, perfect. That's what you want to do. But then sometimes, like the players on your team doesn't understand how you want them to use the ults, because I'm sure like you've thought, okay, like they could use them this way. It's just communicating that to your team so they know.
Okay.
Because I think there's like there'll be situations where it's like we're going to use a window here, and then of course this is in your BAP, but then sometimes the best situation where you'd want him to use the window, he didn't do it, which I'd say is pretty obvious. He should have known how to use it as a BAP player. But saying like, okay, at this corner we're going to use window and go aggressive. So yeah, there were the maybe one things if you're wanting to work on next time you play
Okay.
Brawl, just one thing each.
Which
Focus
scrim
on
is
them.
this? Is this the Monday one?
This was the one without the guy that tilted you. So the last
Oh,
one.
without the guy that tilted me.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
I think it
okay.
was your most recent scrim, right?
Yeah, it's our
Or
most
did you-
recent scrim,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, okay.
Right. So here was the fight. Wait, what time are we at? 3:30. So yeah, this was one where you wanted to use Melt aggressively, used it a bit late, and then I think you eventually lose the fight. Um, it's a long drawn out one, but essentially that's how it goes down. So this fight, you did make a plan. I think you just made it a bit too late.
Yeah.
This might be a thing which isn't necessarily on you doing the plan slow. It's sometimes like your alt tracking a bit slow, Micah. I don't think that's because it takes you too long to alt track. I think it's when you start it.
Yeah.
Like, because as soon as the fight's lost, like say for example you're 3-4 down, you can like it is quite hard to remember, but like start thinking about it then. Because sometimes you'll have lost the fight, the people who are dying on point die out, and then you respawn, and then you start walking, and then you'll do alt track, and then you'll say what ults they have, and then that means sometimes walking into the fight you're making the plan while you're walking in, which isn't enough time to get set up. So here you look for the high noon, but then I think you kind of left it a bit too late and kind of like suffered for it. But of course, this was a pretty tough fight to come back into because they had Blizz. So I'm not too worried, but that's just a case you need to make sure you're trying to remember early enough that you need to do your tracking. But like overall, your like tracking's like really accurate.
Okay.
Like I think you might occasionally miss out one ult.
I do feel like I get like if I miss one, people will remind me of it. I think.
Yeah.
Decently, like.
Yeah, I think thinking back, the one you might have missed out most on was Diva Bomb. I think you're pretty good at tracking Window, Shatter, High Noon Blizz, and Beat. Maybe Beat and Diva Bomb were the ones you were missing out on the most.
Yeah.
But no, you got the main ones most of the time, and you're pretty accurate. So it was good overall. Okay, next fight was at 5 minutes. Right. So yeah, this was one of the things I was talking about with you magic, like saying how you want to use your ults. So coming into this fight, you're like, okay, we're gonna window and mailed, I think was your plan, right? So then, you know,
I wanted to window the corner.
yes,
Mm.
that's what you want to do, right? You want to play
Yeah.
for a window in the corner, and then a lot of the time when you window the corner, you as a Rhine can run forward, right, and take this corner from them because
Mm.
they're just gonna say, okay, let's hide. So then you run up, your Bap and McCree can like stay behind the window, and then everyone else comes and takes this corner from them. Because that is one of the biggest things about McCree and Bap ult. They are not always the best for getting kills. They can get kills, but I wouldn't rely on them getting kills. They're really good at making space and taking corners. Corners are really important, and I think that's how you should like try to take them. But yeah, you can use this window here. I think that's pretty good. So then maybe in the plan you say, okay, window this corner, or when they like peek the corner, we window this corner, and then we can push into them Blizzard. If you like just add that little extra bit, it means people are on the same page of like what they're doing. Because then if we look at how this fight goes, you can see we kind of wait here. We haven't used our ult, and then they ulted first. Which is, you've made the plan. We should have windowed by now, but, I think we end up waiting a long time. It was a really good Blizz, though. It was just if the window was earlier, you would have won that fight. So, I guess the main thing is, what is the ways that you're going to be wanting to use window? What are the like main, not combos, but reasons and when you want to use window?
To take space. To do a hyper aggressive push so we can like damage boost. Well, so we can maybe boost heals.
Okay.
Uh, Not sure to be honest about that. We can go for like combos, obviously, with abilities. Um,
So, yeah, the first one you said, taking space, that's pretty good for if you're wanting to zone an open area. So that was like the first one you said. The second one you said for the amped up healing, you call that a brawl window. So usually it's only going to be your BAP standing behind it, right? So you go forward to go brawl them, wherever that may be, right? And then BAP can stand behind the window and then pump you guys with heals. So that's like a brawl window where you're using that behind your team because you're wanting to keep them up. And other like windows you can use is like forcing resources. So if you wanted to play for Shatter, I think that was when you called, or maybe you did that more commonly with High Noon, but that's like probably like 3 good ones you can use. So I'd maybe think of them that way. At one point, talking about the using abilities with it, you called for a Fire Strike window. I would say the majority of the time it's not worth it, because if the enemy team, or at least when the enemy team has a diva, right? Because if the enemy diva is paying attention, you will never get the kill from it, right? So most of the time as a Reinhardt, you're going to be running through the window and taking the space that it makes. So potentially, yeah, you can use some abilities from it, but most of the time, the only two wanting to mainly get use out of the window is BAP and McCree. So that's what I'd say in terms of like trying to fully get the most value out of window. They are what you're wanting to look to do with it, and try to like stick to that. If you like see opportunities like Diva's out of mech or Diva's not there, you can say, okay, let's window Fire Strike, but most of the time it's not worth it. All right, we can continue on. Or does anyone have any questions? Or are you good?
No, makes sense.
Okay.
makes sense.
You guys start making your next plan here, which was actually no plan. Never mind. Sorry. This was when they ran DC'd. So I think Actually, yeah, this was something for you, Raptor. You changed to Hanzo here.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a bad change, but I think it's very important how you communicate to your team when you change to Hanzo.
Yeah. Said I'm
Because
doing something.
yeah, I saw that wording and I was like, maybe a bit ambiguous, but the most important thing is like, yes, you change your playstyle, you play Hanzo, but you're changing your entire team playstyle, right? Because now you're going from playing around Maywalls to playing around spam, and potentially pick potential with taking off angles.
Yeah.
But mainly spam, right? That's your advantage now. You got more spam. So the most important thing is when you're making a change like this that fundamentally change how your comp plays. You say, okay, I'm going Hanzo. We've got more spam now or something, right? And you need to make sure
Yeah.
your team acknowledges that so they can start planning around that accordingly. Because now playing at corners and spamming them out when they're in open space is even more important now. But I think you do get like some good picks, right? Playing the Hanzo, it did like kind of work out as a pick. But I think it's quite important as well to, communicate to your team. I'm playing Hanzo now. We're changing the playstyle for comp. So that's one thing to be very wary of. Because even though it's a small change, it does actually change up how you're playing the comp low. Also, here, this was another thing. You guys need to abuse this corner more. Uh, what ends up happening here, I think, is you just kite, but then you don't take this chance to spam them, right? Because they need to walk from here all the way to here, right? Like that's like a lot. And this is all open space here, right? Which you want to spam them, which you don't use the opportunity because by the time they're in the open, you start backing off. So you need to abuse corners more and spam. Even when you're running the Mei Cree, you spam them when they're in an open space because you're the one at the corner, right? You've got the advantage. You can spam them out. If you get low in resources, you just pop right back around the corner. So you need to abuse these corners more because you don't end up using that, and then I think this is kind of like how you just like lose this fight. And again, here you didn't really have like a proper plan. There was the pause here though. There was like another pause here, and then I think you just forgot to plan, and then forgot which ults they had because the pause was so long. So this was unfortunate, I guess. Right, you got a really good pick on the Kree though when he was high nooning. Right, actually, how did you get that? Was he not behind shield? Oh no, you're in high ground. Ooh, nice shot. You
Oh,
won.
thank you. Thank you.
You won the fight off of that pick. That was huge. But then the main thing is like Hanzo getting that pick there isn't a reliable, or maybe if you're Raptor you are, it's reliable. But
Oh,
you
wish.
know,
I wish.
yeah. But you can't rely on that, right? You need to make sure you're planning and actually
Yeah,
have your
fair
team
enough.
conditions set up to win.
Yeah.
Um. All right, this was another thing I didn't agree with in terms of your ult planning. So you wanted to play for Shatter this fight. That's good, right? You can stand here. You've got the hands of Kree. You can poke out their shield when they're rotating, and you can get the Shatter off properly. Although you wanted to beat their Blizz,
Mhm.
generally I'd say it's not worth beating Blizzard, unless you're in a situation where it's like you're like depends how many catches. Like if it catches a couple people and then you can still keep on playing maybe. But I wouldn't say it's a general like ult plan. Playing for beating Blizzard isn't that good or
Sure.
reliable. Mainly I just say for playing saving amp.
Mhm. Okay.
You can use beat at other times, I'd say. Oh yeah, this was I think this fight was kind of on haze because I think you get a big shatter off, but the fire strike window was uncontested. Which I just said not to use fire strike window, and then they just got a 3K from it, right?
Yeah.
But it's generally that shouldn't get off right. I think Hayes just wasn't paying attention to that. They had that, so maybe Hayes, if you're watching this, if they've got the window, maybe play more for eating the fire strike. Usually teams don't go for it though, so maybe it was just because I didn't see the diva.
I feel like this is also like because we get distracted a lot during pauses, and then like we didn't have a fight plan, and we haven't. I think we didn't remember what ult we tracked before.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is last fight. I think they just used. Oh yeah, this was the point where I said calling a target for your beat would have been good.
Oh right, yeah.
Like in this one, you're like doing it for tempo here. Like, you know, just call the first person you see usually. So Rhine split, just do it onto Rhine.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because here target focus is a bit split, and then you're not getting value at the start of your beat. Also, another thing, I think this was because there was no communication for this fight. I know it's like recontesting point, but you stacked your high noon and window. Like, you'd never want to stack high noon and window. Generally, you're not going to get value out of that. Use one or the other. Yeah, nothing else interesting for the rest of this round. Let's see your attack. Let's see. So I don't think there's enough planning going on. Or not early enough. Like, I think you guys, like, you know, up to this point, I don't think you've said anything. You've just all kind of wandered here naturally. Which is, you know, cool and all, but we need to make sure we got a plan. I think Scratch, you kind of pop off this fight. And just, like, click
I don't remember.
Because, like, I think Ryan's, like, saying, okay, let's go around left, and then this is what I mean by kind of, like, off-angling, right? You're on this right side and got to pick while your team is rotating. Right, so I think you got, like, 3 picks here, right? So that was pretty good. So, my opinion on this point is I don't like pushing this way. Generally, the defending team will have advantage placing wall here. And it's usually when you win these fights, it's based off of someone making a mistake. Usually on neutral fights, like first fight, or actually on neutral fights, I need to make that clear. On neutral fights, I don't like playing this. When you have high noon or window, I always want to play this. Generally, first fights, a pretty good rotation is this one. You cut out most of the open space, and then you're close to point and can play for getting walls there, right? Because there's a nice little choke here. Then also here, just that kind of area is nice for getting walls. Here's also a bit risky, but I kind of prefer this to that. One of the main things about this bit is like a much longer sight line, and they can choose to kite, do other things, use ults better than you. So generally, this is a pretty good first fight pathing. But make sure, like, you know, you're planning this before, right? You say, okay, they're holding statue. Let's do a quick speed rotate through hotel. Or if you've got window, like, usually a good thing is, like, you walk around here and place window, or you speed boost high noon around here. That's, like, the main things I like to see for attacks on this point. Like, that's personally what I find works best.
Okay.
And from talking to coaches, generally they say that's what they prefer. Some do have other ideas about it. Like, I know some people like to do split pushes where you do like here and then you rely on taking off angles at the same time. So like you can send your Rhine and May and Bap like this side or something, and then your Korean diva flanks over here, and then you can create like a pinch. There's things you can do here in neutral fights. But if you're just like trying to keep things simple, I do prefer like hotel rotation. But yeah, here I'd say this is like you won this fight as individuals, not as a team. But yeah, overall good. I'd say this is another example of like not planning. Like you're maybe just holding here without a purpose, so you're not communicating why you're holding here. Because I think this kind of run up and roll you over, right? Like you, or like maybe there was like you had an idea about holding here, and then just didn't communicate it. But like you weren't really holding a corner. Like I assume you're probably just thinking, right? This choke is horrible. I want to be on the other side of it. But then it's just only like Rhine here, and then you're just kind of like standing about here. Like you can say to your team, okay, let's play here, this corner, and then we can, look to use window and take this. Or actually, this is probably too late. You do have window, but actually try, make up an idea about how you're wanting to hold here, rather than just like holding the space, but like not knowing why. So I think you push out high ground here. I like this rotation from you guys. Oh wait, that was too far. It's a good alternative because this choke can be quite hard to get through without using a shit ton of resources. So the rotation up here through here, like really nice. And